Hey, MK.
What?
I hate starting them like this, but I can't stop. Just, hey, MK.
Yes, Sam.
We're on episode 11, and look, we did it. We got that guy.
What?
We got that guy.
I'm a Stegosaurus.
Yeah, we got the Stegosaurus today. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of the TFI podcast. And today, we finally, after months of begging him and pleading him and telling him we're not worthy enough,
That didn't happen.
we finally got cooler, right? So now we can start talking about things, and I won't get in trouble for mentioning them.
Yes, sir.
You say finally got cooler, right? Technically, this is his second appearance on the podcast.
That is true.
You know, a second thing where it's not just us all in a hot, sweaty room after TF gone.
This time, and this time they're not drawing explicit images in my book and communicating with each other or transforming a movie masterpiece or Optimus.
Yes, this is true.
For everyone who's listening, because there's no visuals, Claret just licked his YOLO Park Scourge on camera.
So nothing's changed.
Anyway.
So
Yeah.
nothing
Got
has
some
changed.
sharp claws.
Nothing has changed. All right, so
Let's talk about The Hunted, because we didn't get to really...
The what?
the what?
Let's talk about... So hold on. Let's talk about The Hunter, since we didn't get to talk about that on the last episode. Well, we kind of
Yeah,
did, but not
definitely
much.
not the hunted.
Got it. So the Hunter. It's the thing is though, like before Rise of the Beast was released, and like we knew it was coming. We had already gotten questions, you know, hey, TFI, will you guys be doing a prequel to Rise of the Beast? And my answer was always the same thing. I'm like, I don't know. It just depends if there's like loose ends or open, you know, story elements that we can tell from. And it's and then Rise of the Beast, you know, came out, and Cooler, I believe you had saw it before myself.
I did, because I had that one day. Wait, I can't remember.
Yes, you had that one day early
Yes,
screening.
I had that one day early screening that I drove like an hour and a half to go see.
I had to wait like a week to see mine.
Oh.
I saw it opening day, I believe, and Coolerite saw it, and I believe you came back and you're like, oh yeah, there are some stories we can tell.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, like, well, we don't make these prequels and sequels to quote fill in the gaps or make it make sense. We do it just because we love it, and we had been doing a lot of projects that weren't involving live action Transformers for a while, so it felt kind of good to use, you know, toys that were in the live action universes. And I believe Cooler, you were the first one to sort of pitch the idea that we were going to do, which is focusing on why Optimus is the way he is.
Yes. I remember, because one thing that really stuck with me, with the film in general, is that, believe it or not, Optimus actually had a character in this one. We actually get to see him progress, and he's not already like the super noble, fight for everyone type dude that he's known for. He's kind of an asshole a little bit. And I really wanted to, because the one thing I wish the movie actually did was touch a little more on that. Like, they had some really good moments that if they were just stretched out a little longer, I feel like they would have been great. Like when they were all in Stratosphere and they had like 2 seconds talking about B, and Optimus has his famous quote of, "I never should have taken us so far from home." I'm like, elaborate on that. Like, give us more of that.
I love how you say it's his famous quote, yet I've only ever heard you quote it.
Well, that's what makes it famous.
It's famous for me, but no, I agree. Like, I loved Rise of the Beast, but I feel like one of the main problems I have was that all the robot interactions could have lasted a few more minutes. Cooler, what was our original decision to go with YOLO Park Optimus?
I remember it was actually a debate for a while. It was a debate between YOLO Park and Studio Series, and I think I remember at one point we had actually at the time settled for Studio Series because I remember we both had our off opinions about the YOLO Park Prime, how some of the a good bit of the proportions aren't to scale with the actual model. But I think at the end of the day, we ended up like deciding it just looks more, it's more detailed. It looks like more clean, and also we knew beforehand that we were going to do chapter 2 as Scourge's story. So, you know, if there were any chapters, or, you know, if we showed anything that showed the two together, YOLO Park Optimus and YOLO Park Scourge would, you know, match the best. But I remember another reason we were kind of debating between the Studio Series and YOLO Park is at the time, YOLO Park didn't have the official upgrade kits yet. But you had a 3D printed one, I believe, for Studio Series Optimus, which gave him, like, you know, the bigger screen-accurate guns and, you know, a few other things. But I think what we did, and if you look really closely during the first shot of Optimus in the film, you'll notice the gun he's using isn't the actual YOLO Park add-on. We filmed that scene before the add-on was released. What was it? The gun that was compatible with the Studio Series?
Yeah, there was a third-party sort of Rise of the Beast inspired Optimus figure, and the figure's kind of a hybrid of the Bumblebee movie and the Rise of the Beast Optimus, and that came with that gun that would be compatible with Studio Series. But I remember the reason why we went with that one, and then why the YOLO Park guns appear later, is because the Hunter was one of those projects that just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Because originally we wanted it out in December, but we were having issues with, like, you know, casting certain characters and getting the lines in on time, and then just the weather was not participating. And filming a project like that, like a 20-plus minute project around Christmas time, is what slows it down, because while we didn't get a lot of snow this December, there was just a lot of like holiday stuff to do. I was at work a lot, and the weather was absolutely freezing. So they just kept getting pushed, and it, like, we wanted it out in December, and it didn't get released until February. And by the time, like, January and February rolled around, YOLO Park released, you know, the Rhinox and the Scourge and the Cheetor, and those came with the updated weapons. So that's why YOLO Park Optimus's weapons, you know, changed near the end. They're his actual YOLO Park weapons. And I figured it wasn't the worst thing, because, like, one scene was at night and in the rain, and it was kind of drastically different enough to kind of not notice too much of the difference. But that was a project that kind of benefited from time being, you know, against us, with the project being pushed, as we were allowed to use a lot more, you know, like, neat stuff.
I am also remembering now, looking at both of them side by side, another reason we did end up deciding on the YOLO Park Prime is because of the head sculpt. And I remember discussing to you, I could see more emotion coming from the head sculpt they gave the YOLO Park versus the Studio Series, because the Studio Series one is kind of shrunken. It almost looks swollen. And, like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to take it seriously, knowing what, you know, the subject matter of the film was and the tone we kind of wanted to set for it.
Can you imagine Optimus saying that line with a swollen face? We knew we should have taken us so far from home.
Step aside.
But it's fun doing, like, movies, spin-offs and prequels and stuff like that, and there's a lot of stories to tell. Like MK and I have that, like, Nest series that we have to discuss and figure out what we're doing. There's all the comic books to take inspiration from. I want to do something.
We also have the Dark of the Moon original ending collab film.
It's not a collab.
We
It's
also
not
have
a collab.
Origins Unknown Season 3.
Okay, well, that one's a collab. this year though, this year's going to be an interesting one. This year's going to have, because like last year, a lot of projects came out. This is a year where there's not going to be a lot of projects, but they're going to be very lengthy, very complicated projects, especially with Gigawatt, Rise of the Fallen, Steel Jaws. Both those films are going to do something that's very, very unique and different. And The Hunter kind of felt like our last project at the moment that was more just simplistic and not too extreme. And, Cooler and I, we look back at The Hunter and we kind of wish the circumstances of like life were a little different, because while we're proud of the film, we feel like I kind of view it the same way I view The Legend Exists, and it's like if we were to redo it, I think there were better ways to tell certain topics. We kind of have an agreement going, Cooler and I, that when I send him completed stuff or script rewrites or anything like that to review, that we do not give each other deep opinions on it unless we're in a call, because also like through text, inputs and opinions you can kind of miss the subtext. And Gigawatt 4, I feel like is one of those projects where like nothing goes through unless we're both happy with it, and there will be some compromises as all projects do, but Gigawatt 4, the way it's coming together, I gotta be careful not to say too much, but
it's something else.
This is something else. It really feels like I'm sort of in a way just like working past through the last 10 years. It really feels like everything we've done in the last 10 years is coming together for this one project. Like all that we've learned, all the stories that have happened, it just feels like everything is being honored. And it's surreal filming certain scenes given the context. And because when I first brought this up to you, I was like, we need to do a project for the next, for the 10th anniversary thing. And you literally study TFI like it's, like you go to TFI study every Sunday.
Yes, sir.
And my original pitch wasn't even a Gigawatt focused thing, really. It was just Unicron. It was going to be a multiversal Unicron, because I had watched a video. I think it was one of those how to basic things. Not how to basic.
How to basic. The whole film is just him throwing figures around his yard. Like,
yes. I can't believe I said how to basic.
How to basic. Oh my god.
Chris McFeely just tries to transform a figure, throws in the toilet, just does all that kind of stuff.
The basics. I get what you mean now.
Yes, so Transformers, the basics. And I watched one on, I think it was Multiversal Singularities. And apparently I know Unicron was meant to be one. So I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like Unicron was like the big threat to TFI? Because we had never done Unicron in any project by that point. The Finest Hour was our real first time using Unicron. And I was kind of hesitant at first because I didn't really have a practical way to do Unicron because I never owned one. And I felt the skill set I had wouldn't really allow me to figure that out. And Chlorite's like, there's this character. He's actually a really good dude when you get to know him. And it's the Fallen. And I was like, yeah, the Fallen was a multiversal singularity in the comic books as well. But I mean, before that got retconned eventually. I think there was wasn't there like a whole event with like Vector Prime that removed singularities?
That's a good question. I could have sworn, I feel like he was like supposed to be a multiversal singularity and like everything, but then a certain continuity kind of broke that because it either didn't follow it or something was.
A lot of it also comes with the struggle too. The Fallen and Megatronus were two separate characters at first. When the Fallen was introduced, he was never Megatronus. Originally, he was just the Fallen, like an unnamed Prime. It wasn't until later that lore got expanded upon. So I think when they started diving more into the Fallen's lore, the whole multiversal singularity thing started falling apart.
Because it is quite limiting to do so. Like when we do any sort of project in the future or in the past that involves the Fallen, we kind of have to like stick to that whole he's a multiversal singularity. What he does now probably should come into play later or something like that. And it's I think like the first hint of like multiversal singularities started out with fun little Easter eggs, which are the Gigawatt cameos. And we started placing Gigawatt in all projects, starting with, I believe it was Covenant. You see him in the background of the Velocitron scene, and he's been in every project since. And we explained that he's TFI's multiversal singularity. There's only one of him, and he appears everywhere. Well, and then as we ended up writing the script for Gigawatt 4, we realized we can actually canonize those Easter eggs. So when you see him, you're seeing him. He's not...
Sam, how dare you say that on the podcast? Without this podcast, the audience would think, oh my god, they've been teasing Gigawatt 4 since... What was it? Covenant, the first Gigawatt cameo? They've been teasing Gigawatt 4 since the first Gigawatt film in Covenant. This is like a big... Now you're just like, oh yeah, we just did the cameos for fun, and Gigawatt 4 came later.
No, that's the thing. Someone commented on the Rise of the Fallen reveal, like concept trailer, and they said, wow, who would have thought that the last 10 years was just one big plan to Gigawatt 4? And I'm like, oh, it was not. It was not. When I made the OG Interstellar, you'd have told me 10 years later we would have made a big 10-year celebration film that involves all these universes. It's like, no. And I was like, what? Like what are you smoking? But I love the... Well, it's like, wow, he's been planning this whole time. What? No, I can't even make myself breakfast, let alone plan 10 years of multiversal stories.
Oh, that's why we have a designated caterer at TFI.
Yeah, we do. They still haven't got rid of the floor bread. But
I thought you said you did get rid of that.
Yeah, I swapped rooms. We found another. So...
Oh god, have we explained the floor bread before publicly?
I believe we did, but if we didn't explain the floor bread, there was one day where we were chilling at my place after like TFCon, and a piece of bread that I was munching on a while ago had fallen like off the plate and behind the desk, and I just didn't know it was there. So one day, MK is playing with a G.I. Joe figure in my room and like shoots.
Gun goes flying.
And the gun goes flying. We can't find it, but what MK managed to find was the bread.
This joke went along for so long. There was a time we had a Minecraft server, like a bunch of people in the TFI group had a Minecraft server, and Sam had a house. So one day, I went to his house when he was offline. I went to his bedroom in that house, because it was a recreation of his real house. So...
Yeah.
I went into where he was. I went to where the spot would be in his actual house, dug underneath, put an item frame with the name, and renamed a piece of bread floor bread. Put it in an item frame, slapped it under the desk, and like put something over it, so that way you could only, if you walked in at a certain angle, you could see floor bread popping up from under the desk.
No, but like when it comes to the whole like, oh, this was planned from the start. Now only 2 projects were actually made with Rise of the Fallen in mind, and of course it's Gigawatt 3, but originally we were going to expand more on like the whole Shatterglass universe, but then as we were working on 3, we were discussing 4, which is why a lot of factors come into play. But the only other project that was made to relate to Gigawatt 4 was Maverick, and I feel like it's been enough time that we can state the most glaringly obvious thing here, being that the ancient one, the stealth jet at the end, was obviously the Fallen.
What are you talking about? His name is the ancient one.
The ancient one.
My favorite part as a behind-the-scenes thing for the audience is the script doesn't label him as the Fallen either.
It doesn't.
But it doesn't label him as the Fallen. But the script is like a stealth black jet. Oh, ancient one. And I immediately, I sent Sam a screenshot of that chunk of the script. I just went, I know what you're doing. I know what you are. No,
You're not slick.
yeah, I was like, you are not slick. I'm aware of what this is, even if the script doesn't say it.
Yeah, but like I think what I didn't mind about that is, despite the fact that that character is the Fallen, whether it's the Fallen or not, that does not affect the story in the Maverick universe, because originally it wasn't going to be the Fallen. It was just going to be this stealth Decepticon jet, which we picked up at TFCon the same year that we started to film all the drone shots for Maverick. Yeah, you were the one who convinced me. You're like, yo, that could be a cool character. And then we're sitting at home planning the script and the story, and you're like, oh, Chief, what if it's the Fallen? And I look, and I looked at you like, I swear, if you try to worm your character into everything we do now.
I remember, I feel like I was fiddling with him while, like, sitting on the chair, and I was like, you know who this kind of looks like if you squint really hard.
If you squint really hard, maybe put on some drunk glasses, make it really... But I was more accepting of it, because at first I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that, because a lot of people might like the actual, like, mind wipe, like, character and design. So I came to, like, a middle ground. I thought, okay, we'll use the figure as the Fallen if I can alter his colors a little bit. And so all his red parts were sort of a light sort of cyan or like blue, to really kind of relate it to the original Origins Fallen that we used that had a lot of blue on him. And, like, if we move forward with Origins Unknown Season 3, it's...
If...
Yeah, what do you mean if?
Sorry. And when we move forward with Origins Unknown Season 3, and we continue the Fallen's little story in his little monument, what's he been doing in there? What brings him to the situation where he's doing his thing?
You're about to find out.
But it's been exciting. It really feels like it doesn't just feel like a Gigawatt 4. It really feels like TFI the movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, just with how much happens in it. Like, Cooler and I were watching a scene that happened today that we shot. It's like a 3-minute scene, and we're watching over and we're thinking, oh my god, this is pretty cool. And one thing that we really wanted to do for Gigawatt 4 was just to of course, like, flesh out the Fallen's character himself and discover, like, what does he really want? Is it just revenge, or is there more to it? And we're trying to make him not a sympathetic character. The man does not deserve sympathy, but to make him a character that you can kind of go, I can see why he's doing that. And he's not just this bloodthirsty cockroach looking thing. That he has a deeper motive to him, and I'm interested to see, like, how that actually plays out moving forward.
So to bring it back to the general topic of this episode, hard-hitting journalistic question here.
Okay.
How many chapters do you think we can expect to see out of The Hunter? Or I guess Rise of the Beast, because the first chapter was The Hunter.
Yes. Coolerite, we've confirmed 3, I think, at the moment.
I was also gonna say, like, not including this first one, I think there are 3 kind of, ideas that we had for separate chapters. Obviously Scourge is confirmed as the second one in his story. Do we want to explain the other 2?
I think just
it's up to you two.
In small detail. Small detail.
Well, okay. Well, so obviously chapter 2 will be Scourge's story, kind of, what he's all about. Chapter 3, I think we discussed possibly being Maximal related, because, we didn't really get to see a lot of where they came from. We only got that quick glimpse at the very beginning of the movie. And then the 4th chapter, I think, is probably the most unique of the rest. And it's how Mirage came about getting that special T-Cog that he and only he has.
I feel like there's a lot there that we could show for Mirage. And I think moving forward after that, there's nothing really on the table. Someone did ask if Chapter 2 was going to be like Optimus versus Transit. And we don't really have the plans to show that because the the deleted scene exists. Like basically you're meant to watch that deleted scene after you watch The Hunter. That was our thought process with it. If there was a Transit toy officially by this time, I do believe that we could have like shown that in our own sort of way. And it's just whatever stories that we can come up with that can be used as a prequel, we'll discuss it. And of course, there's the risk of whatever we make could be retconned. And honestly, we're kind of fine with that because at the moment, at the moment until it's retconned, we like to think that this is what we believe happened or what could have happened. And if it gets retconned, then we still had a fun time, collabing and actually releasing a project.
All right, everyone get your TFI podcast bingo cards out. Sam has said, hello, everyone. He said, hey, MK. He's referred to, we're just making them for fun. And now he's said his famous, if they get retconned, we don't, his whole speech about retconning. Will he say fare thee well at the end? Wait to tune in to find out.
The free bingo slot is the beginning, and in the middle of a bingo card is me thanking you for getting the ball rolling on this.
And as always, thank you again.
But it's prequel stuff is fun because it's kind of refreshing. Because for example, when we were working on Gigawatt 3, alongside that we were working on Rollout 3, and it kind of I got a little burnt out on working on things so G1 based that I missed making something Bayverse related. And after working on Hearts of Steel with Carlos all summer, I got, kind of burnt out with trains and stuff. So when we went to The Hunter, it was nice and refreshing to have another watch or Rise of the Beast, get some ideas, work on the live action stuff again. And the little tease of Scourge at the end is just like, ooh, what's Chapter 2? What's gonna happen in Chapter 2, Cooler, right?
Optimus versus Transit.
Wait, no, Scourge's story is only end credit scenes. You just connect them all. Actually, if you guys really want to swipe or check another bingo card, MK, how's the update on the comic dub going?
Yeah.
Well, that answers that, guys. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
I have been editing panels, but the
MK Volume 1 is coming out like in a couple weeks. No, in like a month.
Did you edit every single panel I'd already sent you?
No.
Okay. There we go.
See, I'm patiently waiting for the dub because I'm illiterate and I can't read. So
I can't read.
You read them all.
No, I didn't. So
he looked at the pretty pictures.
Yeah, I looked at the pictures. So until you actually do the dub, I'm like sitting here like, I wonder what those pictures
No,
are.
see, I heard Coolerite live read to himself his own comic dub while reading the 6th issue.
Prove it.
And
prove it or it's not true. Yeah, that's what I thought. Boomer.
Boomer.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, Sam. You're what? You're about to be put into retirement?
I'm turning 30 in a couple weeks. I know.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
You already have white hair, don't you?
I do. Shut up.
We're going to find Sam at the mountaintop like it's the old wise Sam Flatman. He comes down, he's like, I know about robots. And that's it.
I can tell you about the one robot to rule them all.
Yeah, no, and then this is where you mark on the bingo card, MK joking that Sam is an elderly man.
And see, the thing is, you say that, but like every time I go to like trim my beard, I find a gray hair in it. I'm not even kidding. Like I if you saw me in person, I'm getting that salt and pepper look. Just put some fries on me, and then you're set. But speaking of the Skybound comic, like when Coolrite like finished reading them, like he did suggest it'd be fun to do a fan film like in that continuity. And I had said, I want to like translate some of the comic panels into actual films.
What are besides Gigawatt 4? What are we waiting on for Origin Season 3?
That's a good question.
So
Because for the last no, for the last 2 years, every time I brought up Origins, you went, "Oh, we're waiting for the inevitable Studio Series Fallen," and then it's been out for what 2-3 years now.
I own 6 of them.
it's a little complicated because the first episode I do have scripted, but Coolera and I have kind of different directions we'd like to take it, because the more Origins develops, the less we're following the comic book, because currently right now in the lore we're in the Defiant / Foundation comic books, and those have a lot of other extraterrestrial life. Like Cybertron gets invaded by a different alien race that has a spark and wants the Allspark, but that's not something we're really interested in kind of focusing on at the moment. So we're trying to sort of find a middle ground. But I think right now, with just Gigawatt Rise of the Fallen that was looming on the horizon, we didn't want to start anything that might be too grand or too complicated until we get, more of Gigawatt 4 complete. Because this film is massive. And I don't mean massive in terms of scale, there's all these characters and all that characters. This isn't some sort of end game type film. It's a very character, emotion, story driven film. And I love the fact that one of our voice actors who sent in their lines said they were almost crying when reading the script and doing their lines. And that made me feel pretty good. So it's definitely something that we can kind of, Origin Season 3 is something we can kind of look back at maybe during this year's winter months again, because Origins Unknown doesn't need to take place on any planet but Cybertron. So we can do all those indoor set stuff. And I'm actually hoping to expand the sets that we do. And it's funny because, speaking of that, there was a really funny moment where I was at work and I think someone, either a customer or whoever, had accidentally left something at work, and it was just it was like these metal looking floor mats, but they were actually foam, and they were in the store for days and no one had claimed them. So I took them. And so I'm using those for some background pieces. For context, if anybody watches MGO, his film review table is this metal, rigid looking table. That's what it looks like, only it's black and kind of foam. And so that could make for great backgrounds and floor pieces and floorboards, all that, all that.
You straight up said, "I'm gonna take this.
This is mine now." Yeah. Because with 10 years of TFI, I love that we have all these background sets, but I'm noticing the one thing that hasn't changed much is our backgrounds. Since the original Interstellar, we've used computer parts and stuff like that, and some films have these modular background sets, and those look great, but there's not much of a variety these days. It's the same computer parts, but in different locations, different rotations. I feel like it's time we start expanding more and have more sort of sets with depth, more objects in the foreground that the camera can kind of be blocked by, all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be a certain set built for Gigawatt 4. Can't say what it is, but it's a unique set that will keep reappearing in the film, and we want to make sure the design for it is kind of close to something that just I have to speak in as little detail as possible. And I'm really glad podcasts are audio related, because if you guys because if you guys could see what Coolerite's been doing on his camera, you would be glad too.
Cooler, I just have to say something real quick. Have you noticed something this podcast? The amount of times Sam gets asked a question hey, when are you working on this? Why are you not doing this? What's taking this long? He immediately flips it to Gigawatt 4.
Yeah, he does. He does do that. He's like, let me distract you with the current project.
Anyway, Sam, what about Steeljaws? How's the progress on that going?
Well, you see, when The Fallen comes in, and is like, "Hey, Gigawatt."
That was very funny.
So, but no, in Steel Jaws, like Gigawatt's gonna have a cameo because Gigawatt's actually a multiversal singularity, and Rise of the Fallen actually kind of touches. Now, Steel Jaws' script is actually almost done. An interesting thing about that, God, these podcasts really show how bad my ADHD is. I'm thinking of changing one of the characters, and I'm thinking of changing Outback to Cannonball.
So what you're saying is you can't start filming till a new figure comes out.
This is true, but at the same time, if I start filming Steel Jaws now, I would freeze my giblets off. Trust me, I wish I could film Steel Jaws. I have, except for Cannonball, I have everything I need. I even have the big aircraft carrier that we're going to use, but I'm actually going to get in the water for this project.
You're in the water.
I'm in the water, and I don't really want to go in the water in -7 degrees Celsius.
Coward.
Today on local news, a senior citizen was found floating in Lake Ontario.
Senior citizen.
With a toy robot shark in his hand. More at 11. Oh man, no, there's a lot to look forward to this year, and now that Coolright's kind of more settled in his new place, and I feel like my life's kind of, we're moving. We're healing from everything that has happened.
Actually, I will bring up something regarding the Hunter because I've seen a lot of positive feedback about it specifically, and we've been told by people that we know, and it's that the whole Optimus and Crosscut thing is they love that idea so much. I like to state, only because I feel like, a lot of group work doesn't get acknowledged as I guess, group work / collab work after a film is released. But I came up with the idea for that. And I'll give the story behind it, too. As I said, Optimus says his now iconic line, "I never should have taken us so far from home."
So iconic.
And
every fan film, I hear it in there now.
That's right. Like, I'll be like at work and I'll just hear like in the distance, "I never should have done." Like, who the fuck just said that? But I remember I liked that line so much. I wanted to give it more meaning. Like, I didn't just want it to be a one-off line he said just to be dramatic. I'm like, if he had like a purpose as to why he specifically said that, it like adds that much more juice to it. And so I'm like, what if somebody actually said that to him and it's been like haunting him ever since? And what if that someone was someone that was actually really close with him? And Sam, I remember like talking about it to like a bunch of the people we know, but how we were debating what character to use because we will try to make our films to where they can line up with the continuity, so they're not retconned later. So we were debating, what character could we use that, most likely will not show up in a sequel film that we could, off and give this, sense of guilt regarding Optimus taking them home. And we both figured that Crosscut would be fun to use. Not only do we think he wouldn't show up in the movie, but also I feel like we've only ever done Crosscut when it came to like the original Interstellar and the Interstellar remake. It would be interesting to see, same character but also different character.
Yeah, I feel like that brings up a good point with like interesting things about characters that become iconic to TFI. Like, we have a bunch of different Optimus Primes, different continuities. We have the Movieverse ones, the Rise of the Beast ones, the Interstellar rollout. Like, we have a bunch of different Optimus Prime voices. We have 2 Dreadwinds.
Yes.
We have Million Starscreams. But there's certain characters that I feel like it's really hard. They become so like connected to TFI's identity as that version of the character where like I feel like we can't do a TFI film. It's really hard to do a TFI film that just has the Protectobots. Especially if it's like the same molds or saying like if we were doing like a Generations theme thing. I feel like there's so... Rollout Hotspot is such a big part of TFI that's like, if you do another Hotspot, everyone's just going to be like, well, compare it, or hey, that's not Rollout Hotspot. So I think it was actually really neat that you took another character that was kind of like that with Crosscut, and you did a different take. Like this isn't Interstellar Crosscut.
No,
exactly. Rise of the Beast Crosscut.
Like that was my thought process. I'm thinking like people might be really happy to see Crosscut again, but people might also be expecting, this more like close to the Interstellar version. But which is kind of why Clara and I made sure to write him differently and also use a different voice actor. And of course the figure being different too, because I love the Masterpiece Crosscut figure. And Crosscut in Rise of the Beast, the Hunter, being a senator is more close to his actual character rather than being a Cybertronian with two different colored eyes.
Before we go any further, I just have to point out some things.
Uh-oh.
Jake Bowman, the Lego Master 4501, says, "Hey, how do you put special effects in your stop motions?"
Well, when we do stop motions, I'll let you know.
Smartass.
So, in a brief summary, it's called a silly program called After Effects.
The whole TFI does stop motion thing, I now just embrace. Like on TFI's TikTok, in quotes, it says stop motion animators, just in quotes. But yeah, we use Adobe After Effects for all the main effects. But also, and I this is a good website to recommend, I have a subscription to Production Crate.
Production Crate's really good.
It's really good. That's where I get a lot of my assets. Because I'm personally not the best at creating effects. I feel like I'm better at incorporating and compositing the effects over actually making them. So if you give me the tools, and the supplies, I'll build you something. But otherwise, I'll just look like Patrick in that episode where they're trying to rebuild, a house. But yeah, it's just all Adobe After Effects and pre-rendered stuff with, there's a lot of tutorials that can be found on YouTube and all that. Like these programs can be picked up by, anyone, which I like.
We did get another question. It's from, I think, Yusuf Khan PR, who says, "Will you please explore the scenario on what if Sam Witwicky pushed the Allspark into Optimus' spark rather than Megatron's chest? How do you feel about doing alternate endings?"
I mean, clearly we're already starting that kind of trend with the Dark of the Moon original ending. But honestly, if you want to see a what if alternate ending of the first Bay film, go to MK's channel.
I didn't do that ending though.
No, not exactly, but you kind of did the bad ending.
This might be a little controversial, especially with the creator being right here. But I had one huge issue with that alternate ending. There was no Fallen.
I knew it was coming.
I'm like, wait a minute. If he got the All-Star,
Fallen didn't exist
Homeboy
at
would
that
have
point.
come from Mars and been like, "Hey, yo, bitch, you did it, son."
But Sam, when it comes to alternate endings, I know you. You have this thing where you're like, you won't do something, and then you do it once, and it's like a floodgate gets opened. Like you're like, oh, let me do one little movie tie-in film. Now look at where we are.
Yeah,
you did one little Legend Exists. Oh, we did one adaptation of a comic. Now look at where we are.
It's the hyper focusing. I can't help it. Like again, you open the floodgates, you make me love something enough, and I will just be obsessed.
I see it more as like, I feel like sometimes you're nervous to try new things, and so when you're forced to, and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Well, we can do it again.
Pretty much, yeah. We also have to discuss the Beast Wars in Interstellar.
There's a lot of things we have to discuss.
We have much to discuss.
But
at the moment, I think that's everything, right?
Yeah, I think we got a pretty good insight on, the Hunter. I'm not making that mistake again.
Yeah.
I have to manually. I have to go through my own manual bottle of water moment.
Yeah.
Where I have to
Bottle
I think
of
we did,
water.
We got to do what we couldn't do last month because we actually got the person who helped create it here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But yeah, so yeah, that is all that we have to talk about. We went over the Hunter and Gigawatt and the inside of some other things. I can't really express like when we can expect more Gigawatt 4 trailers because everything we filmed
Tomorrow.
No, don't pull a Carlos and say right now. There's everything we filmed is like spoiler-ish, and if we can't even like we're going through our scenes with a fine-tooth comb to find little frames that we can tease on like Twitter and stuff, and for sort of marketing the film out there. But
I should have been not free tonight just so we could have done it next week, so you would have had like a day to edit.
I know.
I mean, that's knowing Sam. We're gonna send him the files. So for context, because get your bingo cards out. This is where MK points out the day we record. For context, it is March 21st, 2024, and that gives Sam a good 9-10 day. How many is it? 31 or 30 this month? Good talk, everyone. So
31.
So that gives Sam that gives Sam 10 days to record this. But knowing Sam, he's gonna sit on these audio files for a good 6 or 7 of those days. Finally edit it on the 8th day, send it to me on the 9th day, and expect me to respond. He'll send it to me at like 4 a.m. on the 9th day, and expect me to get back to him for him to expect me to watch it all the way through and give my notes enough time to upload it on the 10th day.
You are absolutely right.
There are times where I literally just go, you know what? I hope you like edit it fine. It is 4 a.m. It has to be uploaded by the end of the day. Just put it up. I don't care.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
I know. Yeah, you would.
Maybe a little bit. Just a
little bit. Yeah. So anyways, MK.
Yes.
Thank you for getting the ball rolling.
You're welcome.
Come like the 12th episode of the 1 year mark, I have to stop saying it because the ball is more than rolling.
Thank you, Cooler, for graciously and humbly providing your presence to our podcast.
Absolutely, anytime.
That is not the word,
humble dude.
It's not the word we use to describe
Cooler.
That's humbly. We have to pay him when we're done this episode.
I do accept check.
This is when TFI becomes we.
This is the TFI podcast, not the MK podcast.
Who started it?
You did. It's on your channel.
Who do I thank for getting the ball rolling for this?
I mean, you're thanking me this week.
It's great to have you here again. Finally, it's actually a little disappointing that like it's through like long distance again and not like in person like that TFCon one.
Give it till August.
Yeah, hopefully the plan is that for Gigawatt 4's release, Cooler Right's gonna be actually here for it, and we're gonna have like a party and stuff. It's going to be good. What's going to hurt the most is if Gigawatt 4 gets completed 2 months before its release date. I will cry knowing that I can't release it. But yeah, so we will end this here. Thank you everybody for listening. We will see you.
Matt, you missed your exit.
Matt, cross off that bingo card. Oh, MK, I got a bingo.
I gotta make one of those. When we get a year into this, I have to go back and I have to make a bingo card.
Why don't you just start posting it? But yeah,
I wish we had visuals for this. I need you to see the dentist work that Cooler is doing to himself.
Cooler's got a figure stand like in his mouth. Like
he's giving us thumbs up.
I got these scars.
You gotta leave the Joker impression in. You got to.
All right, so we will see you all in April. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, fare thee well.
You got me to say it.
I hate it here.
Do you have to say I hate it here every time either? Do you cut that from the podcast? I can't remember.
We're about to find out.